Next component we're going to talk about is the Uniram URS 500 P2 solvent recycler, 5-gallon solvent recycler. As always, our video training is based on the operations manual, and you should always refer to the operational manual for your final instructions. First thing we're going to do is identify the components on the unit. The first component is the cover, and note on the cover, as it is on the gun washer, there is a set of instructions, operational instructions on the cover that you can refer to that are very important. Once you have that, the cover opens manually, and once inside the cover, you're looking at the lid. The lid is open with the lid clamp. And immediately on the bottom side of the lid is the lid gasket. The lid gasket is a wear item, and that should be examined frequently for signs of wear, tear, nicks, and cuts. Once you're located inside the unit with the lid up, the first component is to the right side, back side of the tank, and that is your transfer valve. And the transfer valve must be open to manually load your dirty solvent into the tank. Directly below your transfer valve is your transfer port, and that's where the solvent will drain into the tank from your exterior container. On the front of the unit, you'll find your control panel, and that's where your on-off and your operational settings are performed. Directly below that are two adjustment valves. One is transfer timer and one is filling timer. Those units are used to fill the unit from an external 5-gallon pail and to return clean solvent into an external 5-gallon container. They are operated counterclockwise manually. Inside the tank, back to the top of the unit, is where your collection bag and retainer ring are located. Your collection bag is what is going to hold essentially what they call a brick, or it's the solid contents that have been distilled out of the dirty solvent, leaving clean solvent remaining. Connected to the back of the unit are your two siphon hoses. One is designed to draw dirty solvent into the unit, and the other is set up to transfer clean solvent back out of the unit after the distillation process. Also off the back of the unit is your electrical connection, and that goes into your bottom lower wall outlet. Next, we're going to cover the actual operation of the unit. The most important thing for you to do is to identify the solvent boiling point. You will need an MSDS sheet from the solvent that you're going to use to pull the boiling point information. Once you have that, you can properly program that in to the unit based off of the chart that sits on top of the unit cover. Once we have the proper setting, which is done by holding the two off and on buttons down at the same time and cycling through to different settings for different boiling points, is where you're going to actually do the final setting for that. Next, you want to insert the collection bag, open the top cover, open the lid, and we'll go ahead and insert the cover. For your reference, generally one bag per recycle process. So every time you do a 5-gallon process, that bag will ultimately be thrown away. So the bag sits into the opening, the container opening, with the bottom resting on the floor of the tank. And then the snap ring is installed at the top of the bag, and that essentially holds the bag to the inside of the unit. You're going to have some leftover bag after you've got that attached. That additional extra bag just simply folds down over the snap ring, and you're good to go. Make sure that your siphon assemblies are set properly into the supply and return pails. They will be marked with a flow directional arrow to help you with that process. With the dirty solvent hose connected into the pail, turn the filling timer on clockwise. After the lid is, well, the lid can be open, but turn the timer clockwise and the filling process will begin. You will need a minimum of 1.5 gallons of material to properly load the unit, and a maximum of 5 gallons of material. The transfer valve would be open at this point, as we looked at earlier in the video. And at this point, with the container now filled, the transfer valve is closed. The lid is locked down. There's a safety clamp on that lid, which needs to be securely latched. And the cover is now closed. To begin the distillation process, you'll push the on button located on the front of the unit. As the dirty solvent becomes separated from the solids and the contaminants that are in there, the clean solvent will drain into a container located inside the door at the bottom of the unit. That container will initially capture the clean solvent up until the point where the process is done. In order to transfer that clean solvent to a remote container for use in your cleaning and flushing process, turn the transfer timer all the way clockwise, and that material will be pumped out of the container inside the unit into your remote container. The distillation process will generally take about 4 to 5 hours. Once the process has been completed, we will need to remove the bag inside, the liner bag inside the cabinet, and dispose of the contaminants that are in that. To do that, we open the cover, unclamp the lid, and remove the bag, which will be loaded with whatever residue and contaminant has been distilled out of the dirty solvent. That is sometimes referred to as a block. That block can be disposed of, and it may or may not need to be disposed of within your hazardous waste stream. That will need to be determined by your safety and environmental people. With the lid still open, get a dry rag and wipe out the residue that sometimes can be left inside the tank and on the tank lid. Wipe as clean as possible. Of note, please do not use any sharp metal devices to scrape and or clean residue off of either the lid or the tank. Soft wood products are your best option if you have something that's difficult to remove. Last, go ahead and reload your next clean bag. And as you can see, sometimes you need to work with the bag a little bit to get it to hold firm where you want it to be. Now you're ready for your next batch.